The biggest gift that you can ever give yourself is being comfortable by being with yourself. Now, why I say this is because you are the only person who has been with you 100% of the time. You are the only person that knows about you completely. You are the only person who has experienced everything that you have experienced, who has been there while experiencing everything that you have experienced. Now, if you are not comfortable being with yourself, why would anybody else be comfortable being with you? Now, just let that question sink in and sit there for a moment. Because if you are not being comfortable with yourself, and if you don't really love yourself, why should anybody else love you? Because you are the only person who has seen all of you, who has been through every experience that you have gone through. Like, you know every nitty gritty detail of yourself, of your life, of your experiences, of your dislikes, your likes, of your ambitions, your goals, the things that worked out, the things that did not work out. And if you don't love you unconditionally, why would anybody else love you unconditionally? It's like if you are placing conditions on yourself for you to experience love, joy, and respect from yourself, why would anybody else not place conditions in order to give you love? It's like you are projecting the energy that you are carrying inside. Like, if you place conditions upon yourself, that will reflect outside, and people will place conditions upon you in order to love you, in order to even be friends with you, because you believe that in order to love you, that you need to fulfill these conditions, you need to fulfill these criterias, and this energy will just reflect outside. It's like your beliefs and your thoughts are creating your reality, and you don't even know it. So that is why, if you're not being comfortable alone, there are several underlying reasons beneath this feeling of loneliness while being alone. Now, being lonely is not, completely correlated with being alone. If you feel lonely while being all alone, that means there's a lot of inner work that needs to be done. It's not being lonely while you're feeling alone. Being alone is actually more freeing. If you're not completely content with being alone, you would have probably experienced various situations in your life which has brought out loneliness in you, and you believe that being alone will make you feel lonely. But most of the times, if you're not comfortable being alone, you won't be comfortable while being surrounded by people. How many people, complain that I felt so lonely with a group of 80 people, 100 people? Now, I was in the same boat. I visited this party, there's over 80, 90 people, and I felt so lonely. And that's when I realized, like, no, it's not the party, it's not the people there who's making me feel lonely, it is me. There are some internal core issues that I have to deal with. And that is why I feel lonely outside here. And at that point in my life, I was not comfortable being alone. The idea of being alone freaked me out. And I would constantly, avoid any situation where I was alone. Even while going to the grocery store, I wouldn't go alone. I used to call a friend, like, because I was so afraid of being alone. But in a matter of fact, it was not the fear of being alone, it's the fear of facing my own demons. Because when you are alone, this, your mind, your thoughts, all your thought patterns, whatever trauma that you have kept hidden inside will come up to the surface, and you have to face them. And that's the fear that you have. And that is why you don't want to be alone. It's because all these things, your mind is not under your control. Your mind is just letting out all these emotions, these stuck emotions, all these unresolved issues, all the traumatic things in your life that you have not dealt with. It's bringing it up to the surface. And when you are alone, you just freak out. You freak the hell out. You're like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? And that is when you have to realize that you have all these unresolved issues. The way to overcome this fear of being alone is to treat the root cause that is causing you, this fear of being alone. Now, the root cause may be various situations that would have happened in your childhood, while you were growing up, even in your adult life. They would have happened to you, and you would have felt abandoned, you would have felt alone, you would have felt certain emotions which are not so pleasant. And this gave you an imprint, And also, there's also social conditioning, there's also social programming that made you feel like you must always be surrounded with people, you must never be alone. Because when you are alone, you're with your thoughts and you're going to freak out. And you have this, this belief system that you should never be alone. And that kind of compounds to the unresolved issues that you have. And this just creates this massive snowball, and you don't want to stay alone. Like, you will find every reason to not sit alone with your thoughts. And that's why you will start developing all these external mechanisms, such as addiction issues, such as indulging yourself in video games, binge watching TV shows, because that is easier than coping with these thoughts. That is easier than dealing with the trauma that is present inside. Binge watching some TV show for 10 hours straight is way more easier than dealing with the thoughts that arise when you are being alone with yourself. Now, see, the problem is not being alone. The problem is being alone with your thoughts. Because whenever you are alone, all these thoughts come up and you start to panic. And this was me. I was so uncomfortable being alone that I avoided it at any given chance I got. Like, even if I had to go to the grocery store, I would call up somebody and we would walk and I would talk. And one day I went to this party. There were over 80, 90 people. And I felt so alone because I couldn't connect with anybody. And at that moment, I realized like whatever I was saying right was just surface level. My conversation had no depth, and instead of blaming the other person in front of me, I realized that I was the one to be blamed because I was escaping my trauma. I was escaping my unresolved issues. And only if I deal with that, let go of it, and raise my vibrational state, the vibrational spectrum, I raise my vibrational frequency, only then I'll be able to have conversations that have a lot of depth with the people around me, and I will stop feeling this loneliness, and I'll actually be comfortable with my own thoughts. So I did the inner work, and being comfortable with your own thoughts, this just is so rare, it's so unique, because not everybody is comfortable with the thoughts that come in their mind. Because the first initial, the things that come up, it's going to be little intense, it's going to be heavy, because if you have never you know let yourself be alone with your thoughts, and if you sit down for the first time, you're going to freak out. All these things are going to come up, and that's why it is important to find a way to express it. Now, expressing it may be working out, doing something creative, productive, or it may be just as simple as going out for a run in the park, in nature, and just expressing it. And then you sit there, you know you can meditate. If you can not meditate, it doesn't matter. You just sit there with these emotions, you just sit there with these thoughts, and then you try to understand, like, what is the core reason, what is the reason behind all of this, what is the root issue that you're feeling all of this. And then if you go deep enough, when you take slow breaths and you don't judge yourself for feeling these thoughts, and you go deep enough, you'll realize, like, it would have been a situation that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It would have been something that happened in your childhood, something that mom did, something that dad did. And in a way, you kind of blame yourself for that. In a way, you kind of take in the trauma that your upbringing has caused you. And all of these other things are just a mirror reflection or a manifestation of the trauma that you have endured for such a long time. And then when these things come up to the surface, you just let it go, because it's no reason to blame other people. It is very common to blame other people for your trauma, because when these things come up, it's easy to blame mom, to blame dad, to blame stepmom, to blame stepdad, uncle, aunt, brother, sister, grandmother. It is easy to blame. But when you are blaming, you just create more trauma. You create more of the emotion of anger inside you, and that grows. And anger is not a good emotion. Now, this will eventually turn into vengeance, and you just can't cope with life. And again, you'll be, ruined by your own thoughts while you are sitting alone. When you're being alone with your own thoughts, these feelings of anger will come. And whatever, trauma that you experience today, whatever uneasiness, whatever thought patterns that come up, you're going to start blaming each and everybody, and this becomes a pattern. And again, you're just trapping yourself You're not really being free. And again, you will start using other coping mechanisms in order to break free from your own thoughts, from your own mind. It's like you are running away from your own mind. And that's the reason you're not comfortable being with yourself. Your own mind and heart are not connected. And they are, just running you. You're just escaping them. So, in a way, you're being a slave. You're not really free. You're trying to escape the very gift of existence. You're trying to escape reality. And you can never enjoy reality as it is because you're running from your mind, you're running from your thought patterns, you're going from one thing to another, you're going from one addiction to another, one coping mechanism to another, and you're trying to find, life in and love, looking for life in all the wrong places. It's only when you do the inner work, let go, be free from your trauma, be free from your limiting self beliefs, you'll reach this place where you can reprogram your subconscious mind. Because all of these things, right, it has been run by your subconscious mind. Consciously, you're like, no, I'm happy. I'm doing amazing. I'm happy. I'm living the best time of my life. I'm having the best time of my life. But your subconscious mind knows that you're lying. Deep down inside, you know that this is not congruent to what you are feeling. This is not congruent to the thought patterns that are going on inside your mind. And that's when it's a wake up call. It's a hard realization that you have to do the inner work. Let go of all this trauma that is holding you back. And you don't have to blame anybody. You know, blaming somebody is not going to do anything. It's just going to create this hard feelings, even worse. It's going to put you in a state of anger, and which is not really good, which is not really good in the long run. I mean, anger is cool. It'll help you to get things done, help you to, motivate yourself in hard situations. But in the long run, eventually, anger is not that great. So only when you let go of this, only when you let go of all these traumatic events, stop blaming other people, and eventually let go of that emotion, it will slowly fade away, and one day it'll dissolve, and you'll be so comfortable sitting there with your own thoughts. And you'll be so comfortable being alone, and you'll never feel lonely when you are being alone. And then you will also attract people who are comfortable being alone. And in a way, you hear this cliche, saying that we complete each other. Like they're my other half, she's my other half, he's my other half. In a way, what you're saying is you're not complete on your own. You're depending on this other person to feel whole. And I'll give you a better one. Why don't you go like, I am amazing, I'm whole, and this other person is also whole, and both of us come together and we create more love. It's not like we're completing each other, but instead we're amplifying each other's qualities, we're amplifying each other's love. And now love just blossoms more and more, and life gets so much more better. I look at this, I look at this as a better analogy than, we complete each other. She's my other half. Because you're depending on the other person to make you feel good. If you're not feeling good on your own, you're not going to feel good when some other person is there. In the short term, you might convince yourself, yeah, feel good on the surface level, but when you actually come down the iceberg, it's like you're not really satisfied. And that's why people jump from one relationship to another, one coping mechanism to another. This relationship just becomes a coping mechanism for them to escape their thoughts, escape their emotions. And that's why, when you break up, you just jump into another relationship without processing these emotions, you will realize like the other person is also a mirror reflection of your ex. And you start to wonder why. Because you're not processed these emotions, you're not let go, you're not healed from your trauma. And this other relationship won't be any different. Even this will cause you a heartbreak. So that is why let go of your trauma, heal from a trauma, let go of these limiting self beliefs, reprogram your subconscious mind, and be comfortable with yourself. Because only when you do all of this, it'll be so much more easier for you to connect with other people on a deeper level. And the relationships that you make, the friendships that you make, will be of a higher quality because they are a mirror reflection of you. So you don't have to go out there, change anything on the external. Once you change the internal, the external just mirrors itself back to you. And in a way, it's weird, but this is how it works out. The more I did the inner work, the more I let go, and the more I was free from my trauma and healed from my trauma, and the more I was comfortable being with myself, the more, high quality people I attracted in my life, the better my relationships got. It's like they are a mirror reflection of what I am feeling on the inside. It's like your energy projects outside and they feel what you feel. And there is no barriers here because it's more intuitive. It's more of the sixth sense. Like you can put up an act telling that you're all right, you're amazing, you're okay, but the other person knows that you're not feeling okay. Like even you, when you go talk to somebody and they tell that they're okay, but you know that they're not okay, just by looking at them, just by just being there. And because we communicate emotionally, and you don't even know, this is called non-verbal communication, and this is so intuitive. It's like the gut feeling just kicks up. So do the inner work, let go of your trauma, heal from your trauma, and be comfortable with yourself, and watch your life just transform itself into a whole new paradigm. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.